So this is just a 2 hour introductory sort of session, although you do get to work. It's not just me talking, you do actually have to work yourselves as well. So this is an introduction to soul writing. So soul writing is a series of writing courses that I used to teach, and I didn't teach them last year, so I'm back this year. So I'm delighted because I love teaching these courses. So this first one is soul writing for spiritual growth. The one that follows on from this is soul writing for healing. And so there's a few of them, but those are the two we've got scheduled. So the idea of soul writing kind of came to me because I realized, that do any of you do morning pages or anything like that? Like often you'll find that when we're doing morning pages, we're writing, and it can be kind of inspirational, but a lot of the time there's stuff going on with us, or there's stuff that we're still dragging. So if I'm sitting with somebody, say in a soul assessment session, you can hear from the vibration of their voice stuff that they're still dragging with them from sort of childhood or early years or teen years or whatnot, that's not serving them. But it's hard to know it's there unless somebody's actually trained to listen for it. And so also within, say, the work of, say, Peter Levine, the really innovative work he's doing in trauma, the idea is that, trauma, I'm doing a PhD in this at the moment as well, it's non-representable. In other words, this is why cognitive behavioral therapy is not proved effective treating trauma or anything like that and we all have some form of trauma or some form of shame that we're still carrying with us, and that we can be driven by this without even realizing it's there. So for example, Peter Levine, for example, oh, by the way, the recording is going to be just of me, not of you, so don't worry if you haven't got Fran and Anders. If you're in your pajamas, it doesn't matter. You won't be immortalized in your jammies. It's just me on the recording. I've meant to say that. So, but the idea is that trauma is non-representable. So you can't talk your way out of it. So talk therapy doesn't work for trauma. It's found within Levine's work and the somatic experience within the nervous system of the body, and so feeling it, and you have to feel your way through and move. A lot of movement is involved there because we're trying to access trauma that's just stored. When they say it's non-representable, that's a Freudian word for it. Basically, trauma occurs. We're usually not present for it. Often the mind will shut down to protect us, so we're not present for it, so we can't recall it. We can't represent it because we weren't there to experience it cognitively in the first place. We experienced it in the nervous system. And so what I started realizing with writing is a lot of the time, and I've done so many this sort of writing and that sort of writing, I'm sure many of you know, I have my little book here. That's the last book I wrote. That's an Amazon bestseller. I have a really funny photograph of my cat, which Gina will appreciate reading it today. I'll show it to you if we've got time. And so, one of my cats. And so over writing, and I was a journalist, all these different formats of writing, so I realized that it's very difficult to really get to some of the things that are holding us back. Sorry, I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see what's in the chat. Been listening on Audible. Oh, you've been listening on Audible. Beautiful. Right. Oh yeah, my voice, me. And so yeah, they said if I wasn't going to record it myself, and then the audiobook producers were like, if you don't record it, it's going to sound really stupid because you'll have an American accent telling clearly an Irish person's story. And if we hire somebody to do an Irish accent, you'll hate it. So I had to record it myself. That's how I got stuck with that job. And it's nothing like having to write a book and then having to read it. By the time I was finished, I said to my cousin, I never want to hear myself talking again. Just having to over and over. Anyway, so the thing about soul writing is I really wanted to design these courses to be able to get beyond what the mind already sort of knows, and to start using different sorts of exercises and different techniques to start to see what is coming out, what is coming up from the unconscious state. Right. And from that, some very, very inspirational work can emerge as well. I know Gina has taken writing course with me before. Danielle, have you taken writing with me before? No, just Gina. So Gina knows she's been through up and down, up and down, and up and down, and back and forth and in and out with all of the different writing techniques that we've done. But they are incredibly powerful in terms of accessing these things that we really know. I mean, you're here obviously because spiritually you want to grow. And if you could do that by just sort of getting up in the morning, getting dressed and brushing your teeth, you know, wouldn't we all be delighted? But very often spiritual growth comes because we've been through hell and back, right? Usually it's my old sponsor used to say, it's the universe fertilizing you, you know, that you get fertilized, which is this nice way of saying the S word, you know, you get fertilized by the universe, and from those experiences, that's what makes us grow. So it's almost like we have to go through these dark nights of the soul, and we grow from there. Now, we don't own it. That's not the only way we can grow, but often you find that people have these really great transformative experiences can come after the darkness before the dawn, so to speak. And so what I wanted to do with soul writing was sort of to design it in such a way that we could start working on these different ways to get in and get at this stuff that we want to heal, and this ways we want to grow, and the way we want to actually see the world. And so the idea of them is that they are dark to your mind and they are radiant to your heart. So that's what we're going to do. So in the 4-week course that I do, it's kind of designed more or less around, I practice Zen for 20 years. So it's kind of designed around, there's 6 different bardo states in Buddhist philosophy. And I've kind of adapted, I'm sure the Buddha would be rolling over in his grave if we were in a grave. But I've adapted them basically to be able to use them within the context of soul writing, to be able to start working on different focused aspects. Because I say, just get up and write morning pages, which I've done and immensely helpful. But morning pages can't really get you to what's not representable. Does that make sense? Because we're writing from our mind in morning pages. And I think they're fantastic. But we want to be able to go a little bit deeper with this work, with soul growth and with healing, which is even more intense. So in the 4 weeks, what we do is we work with different bardo states and bardo poetry. A lot of this is poetry. I'm a firm believer the language of the spirit is poetry. And that can be free verse. But I have yet in my entire experience to find sitting down just to write straightforward prose gets you out of your mind. It's the poetry that gets you beyond that mental state and out of your mind. And so like we'll do the bardo of the luminosity of true nature. We do bardo of death. We do the bardo of rebirth. We do the bardo of life. And I kind of bring you through all these exercises. And Gina has written at this point many poems, many bardo poems, just short poems that really get to start challenging cognitively what we think we know, and the illusion of selfhood that we've built up around ourselves. Does that make sense to you all? So I'll give you just very quickly, if I can find one here, I hope I can find it now after saying that. So the death, the bardo of death and rebirth, one of the ones that I wrote a long time ago was very simple little poem. You know, and we will do this in the 4-week course because, you know, they say there is nothing like death to teach us how to live. So we will come to the brink, not literally, you're not literally going into the spirit world, but we're just going to poetically come to that state. So one I wrote was dispatched by the blue jay's morning shriek. I become one with the old whispers that all my life I heard and shared for those who couldn't speak. And then the gathering I see, those long gone whom I've loved and served, take my hand and say to me, welcome home. Now you know no one dies alone. And so that poem pretty much came out in that format from within the bardo state, from within. So we'll be working a lot with that over the 4 weeks. But for tonight, I just want to do a couple of not that intense exercises because you can't show up again next week for me to make sure you're okay. And so we'll do some fun exercises tonight. So depending on the time, I want to just start off with doing a haiku or two. And part of the reason for doing haikus is that haikus are the little Japanese poems are only 3 lines long, they're just 17 syllables. The beauty of the haiku is that it can help you take, and it helps you sort of move in the world a little differently, and it starts to shift how you see the world a little differently, because the most ordinary thing, all of a sudden now you're going to rewrite that into a little 3-line poem. We'll work with that tonight. What happens is, they always say, if you want to start doing haiku poetry, write a haiku a day. And in the course, and anyone's taken a writing course with me know, we always pair people up and you have to text each other a haiku every day. Because what it does is it starts to shift how you see the world. You start to see the world like the poet, you know. So something as ordinary as, you know, I ran for the subway and tripped over my feet or whatever. You know, can all of a sudden you start rewriting that as a haiku, which we will work on tonight. Not that particular one, but you know what I mean. You'll start to see how it just shifts how you become present in the world, which is the first step we want with any spiritual practice. And we'll be working with writing as a spiritual practice. What I also want to do is I want you to write your life story in this session. No, your life story is going to be 6 words long. And I will walk you through the method for that. One of my favorite 6-word stories ever is Ernest Hemingway. Well, it's apocryphal, and who knows if he really wrote it, but it's attributed to Ernest Hemingway. One of the most powerful 6-word stories ever. For sale, baby's shoes never worn. See the power that can be in 6 words. So I'm going to walk you through that. We'll go through that step by step by step, and we will find a 6-word life story. Obviously, it will change. Whatever your 6 words are will be relevant tonight. But the beauty of that practice is that it will actually, when we go through the practice, it will actually bring things to you that you wouldn't have thought of had you come with it from your cognitive space rather than your heart space. So we'll try that. And then if there's time, when we're left, we'll do one of the little Bardo poems, which Gina's favorites. All right, so that sound good? So we'll get 2 practices in. We'll try to get 3 in. It's a smaller group, so we might be able to get 3 in. There's a great book I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. I know the name of it's gone out of my head. You know it. The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way. In The Artist's Way, it was very famous, I think, what was it, the 80s or 90s or something. She advocates writing 3 pages every morning, just stream of consciousness writing. And I think it's a great practice, but I do feel, having done it for many years myself, stream of consciousness writing can very easily keep us in your head as well. So it definitely serves its purpose. But I do feel when we really want to get to these older, non-representable depths, we need to sort of go out, you know, to try to make inroads using different techniques that sort of disarm the conscious mind. So we'll be trying to do that. I would, over the course of the 4-week course, I do ask people to do morning pages, scribble 2 or 3 morning pages in the morning. I mean, you can have a little notebook this size. It won't take you very long to do 3 pages, and to do a haiku a day, because it really helps you start to shift how you want to see. And these courses are really about writing for spiritual growth. So we really want to be able to get very, very good and inspired in our writing, but we also want to be using writing as a spiritual practice for growth as well. Right? Good? So far? You all with me? All right. So let us start off by doing a haiku. So a haiku, for those of you who don't know what haiku is 17 syllables. And we're going to do 1 line of 5 syllables, 1 line of 7 syllables, and 1 line of 5 syllables. Now, we're not going to start counting syllables to start with. And for those of you who are out of school as long as me, the syllable is a part of a word, right? Any beat in a word. So my name, Karen, is 2 syllables. The car in the end is 2 syllables, right? McCarthy is 3 syllables. Mac-car-thy, right? If we've got any single syllables, names, in the class, we've got no single syllable now. So Anne, single syllable, for example, all right? So you got the syllable situation. So what we do is 17 syllables, the haikus in 17 syllables. So what I want you to do, so let me talk you through it. And then I would love if you would do this, if you want to do it, you know, do it daily. It really does help you start to, and you can, honestly, you can do these on the phone, sitting on the bus. It's very, very simple. I just want you to have a think about your day today. And just write down a sentence, not just any old sentence, just write down a sentence describing something you observed, something you noticed today. Maybe it was something that happened to you today. Maybe it was something you noticed out there in the world today. Just write it down in one sentence, if you would. It doesn't have to be a really long sentence with multiple clauses, but just a decent sentence, your average sentence. I want you just to take that one sentence and I want you to think about it in a different way. So I don't mean just go and rephrase it so it's got 17 syllables. Take something from each part of that sentence, break it down. Maybe break it down into 3 elements. So for Terry, Terry is somewhere watching something, right? So make a statement about wherever you are. That's not just, oh, I was out in the garden. It's like, say something about how you feel present, right? Then the next part of it is something about the water. You see this in something about the water. And then the third part could be 5 syllables. That's just kind of a little wrap up or a little conclusion or denouement of that little story experience. Does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to everybody? So we're breaking it up into 3 little tiny your little tiny micro story in one sentence. We're now breaking it into 3 other little micros, and so that you're writing it poetically. Now, it doesn't need this, the haiku doesn't need the subject, doesn't need subject verb, doesn't need any of the sort of standard grammatical stuff that goes into a sentence. But I want you just to think about it in terms of who's present, what's the experience, what is the takeaway perhaps from that experience, something like that. But don't be restricted to that, just whatever comes to you. Just take about a few minutes. And just write it out first, and then you can edit it to your syllables. Don't start writing, counting syllables. You get nothing done. The thing about the haikus is they're really simple way. Anywhere you go, you're sitting at a traffic light, on your phone, you can do a haiku. Well, not in New York, but somewhere else. And then, sitting in the subway, sitting in the bus, sitting in the anywhere, you can do this. They take 5 minutes, not even. And the more you do them, the faster you get at them. What it does is you'll start noticing, you start to see the world more with the eyes of a poet. Because you start to sort of lay those pathways within your own mental processes, and then you start to see everything like a haiku. So you start to see everything like a poet. Isn't that beautiful? Wouldn't it be beautiful to go? W.B. Yeats has a quote, now I can't remember it. It's about mystical life is all that I see, all that I do, and all that I write. And that's almost like when we go through life with the eyes of a poet, that's what it's like. The mystical life is all that I see, all that I do, and all that I write, right? Because that's how we're moving in the world. So beautiful. So I do encourage you to do a haiku a day if you can, or pick certain days of the week where you do haikus, maybe it's just the weekends you do haikus, but to do just to notice that it starts to shift how you start perceiving the world. So we're going to go into the 6-word life story now, which is actually, believe it or not, easier than a Bardo poem. So we'll go with the 6-word story. So the thing also about this writing is, if you do the 4-week course with me, I do like if everybody will sit in a state of meditation or attunement before the class. And I have recordings of that, which you can sit with a guided recording to sit before class. I don't like spending a half an hour in the class sitting in attunement when you can listen to that before the class by yourselves. But moving into a state of attunement is, your writing will be like night and day. Night and day. I had somebody once, we did the attunement in the class. So I usually say, if the class starts at 7, 6:30, sit in the power. and then come in, and then you're already sort of have already shifted the energy and shifted into an altered state so that we can really write from that place. But I don't want to spend, we've only got 2 hours tonight for this, so I don't want to spend 2 hours sitting in the altered state. But you can get them on my website. I'll show you the link at the end, and you can listen to those. But I had one person, one time we were working on, I think it was in the when I used to do the memoir, I used to do these mentorships, and she said that we did it one night where we actually sat in a state of attunement and then wrote immediately. And she said that she was never, ever again, ever going to write anything without being in the altered state. Because the difference between, I actually have a couple of cards. I'll see if I can find, I can't remember where they are now. I'll see if I can find them, of somebody who wrote one for me, and I'll show you the difference between the writing in the attuned state and the non-attuned state, if I can find the cards when you're doing this exercise. Massive difference. And so when we're doing the soul writing, we're really trying to do it from the altered state so that we're actually able to access the wisdom of the spirit, the wisdom of the incarnate spirit, you know. But that does take practice. So if you're doing the 4-week course with me, and if you're doing the series with me, I do ask that you do try to sit in the power daily if you can. So I know if you were to pick between a haiku, the power, and the morning pages, I would say pick the power and the haiku, because they will really make the shift happen for you on a very, very deep, very ancient space, not in the head. Do you know what I mean? So so I'm going to talk you through this. So what you're going to do is you're just going to start writing. I'm going to tell you what to start writing, and just keep doing it until I will say change. So what you're going to do is we're going to, and I don't expect anybody to top Hemingway, but if we could, can you imagine how fabulous would that be? But so what I'm going to do is just sort of talk you through this, and in the middle of it, I'm going to actually ask you to pause. And I will talk you gently into a light sort of meditative state. And it's not a real deep state of attunement with the power, but in the middle of, so at that point, I'll ask you just to rest your pens, you know, and then we'll come back. So just follow along as I say stuff, and we'll get this amazing 6-word memoir written. All right. Now, I don't want you coming at it, which you can say, just because I'm saying it's a memoir, it doesn't necessarily have to be something about the past. Better just go with what I'm talking about, step by step by step, and we'll see what we've just lost somebody. Oh well, and we'll see what comes out of it. All right. So, pens poised, ladies. So first, what I want you to do is, let me get my timer. I'm going to just ask you. Oh, here's the picture of the kitten reading my book. Is that good? He sat there staring at it today, so I thought, is that backwards? Is that like mirrored, or can you actually read it? No, it's proper. He sat there reading, so I thought, that's hilarious. He actually looks like he's actually even interested in it, doesn't he? Funny. Anyway, right, so now let me get this timer going. So what I want you to do first is I want you to spend, I'm going to give you 3 minutes just to writing a list of words that describe you. Your personality, things you like, things you don't like, maybe things other words people would use to describe you, any ideas that you have that you think are meaningful, but just lists of words. So just start, just keep writing. Don't think about it. Just keep writing. All right, don't lift your pen up. There's lots and lots of words describing you, how you perceive yourself, how others perceive you, what you like, what you don't like, things that are important to you, maybe people or objects important to you, things that are meaningful to you. Just write there without stopping, without thinking. Just keep writing. I'll tell you when the 3 minutes is up. Okay. So now I want you all just to very lightly, now not analyzing all of those words, I want you just to hold that list very lightly in your hands. And we're just going to close our eyes and just bring your focus to your breath. And just now focus on the simple act of breathing. Just being present here in the moment. Just aware of the weight of the world, and your weight on the world. Just releasing the day, releasing the tension you're holding in your body. Scanning there. You feel drawn to one space, just breathing into that place and exhaling the tension stored there. Simple act of being present. Bringing your awareness to your heart. Dropping that awareness down to your heart center. Breathing in and out from your heart space. And I want you to gently open your eyes and just lightly scan that list of words. And 3 or so words will just leap out at you off that page. If you find you're trying to search for them, just again close the eyes, focus on the breath, really moving into a light altered state. Just allowing the wisdom of the spirit within decide what 3 words truly resonate above the others on that list. And just circle those words. Allow your intuition to guide you, not your mind. Just go with the first 3 and start trying to switch them out. So allow your intuition to guide you. All right, everyone got their 3 words that resonate? Okay, so again, closing the eyes, taking the breath, holding those 3 words lightly in your consciousness. Not thinking about them too much, just allowing just the words dangle there in the air as you focus on the breath, this moment in time. Now, as you lightly hold each of those words, which word feels stronger to you? Which word resonates more with you than the others? Just choosing one, just feeling through them, just allowing your intuition, the wisdom of the spirit, to choose the one that resonates most. All right. If you all got that one word that is resonating most strongly with you. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 minutes now just to write that one word down on a new sheet of paper. Just that one word at the top of the new sheet of paper. And now for 3 minutes, I want you just to free association write everything that that word inspires in you. Everything it inspires, the ideas that come to you from that, your associations with that, any feelings you have about it. Is there any memories associated with it? Just stream of consciousness write. Let's just write without thinking, just the pen on the paper, just keep writing, writing, writing. Free association, everything, just start writing, just using that word as the jumping off point. Everything, thoughts, words, feelings, associations, anything, just freeing the mind, allowing the spirit to free association write for 3 minutes about that word. Okay. Now again, coming back to the breath, letting all of that go, coming back to the moment, back to the present, back to the breath, back to your heart space. As the mind wanders, just allow the thought to go and bring your focus back to the breath. Gently, gently. The simple act of breathing, just being here now. Okay, now looking at what you just wrote, just lightly reading across it, just distill that down into one sentence, or just pick out, just choose what is at the heart of what you just wrote. What's the most important single thing you can say or learn from what you just wrote? Just write it out in one sentence. So you could just distill or summarize. There might be just one thing that strikes you, just allowing the incarnate spirit to inspire. And just write that out in one sentence. I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to do that, but don't analyze it. Just really come back to allowing, again, this needs to be radiant to the heart. So allow the heart to be your guide. There's no need to be clever. You want it to be heart-filled. If you want, I'm giving you 3 or 4 minutes. If you want just to sit, hold it lightly, come to the breath, let it resonate. Take your time. Okay, how are you doing? You've been able to find one sentiment to put into one sentence from what you wrote? Or look like you passed out asleep now at this point from all the poetry and breathing. All right, so with that one sentence that you've, either it can be a summary or a distillation of what you wrote, or it can be just some realization you have in what you wrote? Has everybody got something like that? Yeah, okay. So now with that one sentence, I want you just to express it in 6 words. I will give you probably a clue. Subjects and verbs usually don't need to go into it, take up space. If you remember Hemingway, baby shoe, for sale baby shoes never worn. But you can if you want subject and verbs in it, but definitely not adverbs. Those are definitely banned. Adjectives are a bit of a waste of space too. Just 6 words. I'm just going to give you another 3 minutes. And don't think about it in a linear way. You can think about it in the poetic way, like the haiku. You know, like the Hemingway was actually 3 sentences, was 3 different sentences in his 6 words. So you don't have to, you don't need to have complete sentences by any means. They can be quite poetic. Fantastic to be that honest, because we often think, oh no, we all, especially when spiritual people or empaths, all think, oh, we've got to always take care of, we're wiser, we've got to take care of everybody else, you know, we understand cycle, whatever our reason is, you know, but you know, it's almost like we kind of take it upon ourselves that we become responsible for everybody, and it just wears you out. You know, empathy can be exhausting, and so it's nice to be able to see the voice of self-care in there, because you know you've got to be self-care first, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first. So beautiful. I just want to read you one thing if I can find it. Oh, remind me, Eileen, somebody asked me what the bardo was. Is that right? Is that you, Eileen? So the bardo is not actually a poem. It's just I call them bardo poems. The bardo is the 49 in Buddhist philosophy. The bardo is the 49 days between death and rebirth. So between death and rebirth in Buddhist philosophy, you're 49 days in this bardo state, the sort of in-between state, waiting for your next incarnation. And a lot of Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist training goes into especially when you're approaching the bardo, when you're approaching the end of life, to be able to sustain yourself within the bardo, so you don't just leap into the first incarnation and come back as a goat or something, you know, so you're actually able to sustain yourself in the bardo to come back into another incarnation that serves you. That's Buddhist philosophy. I'm not saying I agree with it or I believe in it, but that's the Buddhist philosophy, and it takes 49 days to go from death to rebirth. So when, but I just find Buddhist philosophy in general, in terms of how we think and move through life, to be invaluable. And so I kind of adopted the 6 bardo states, and where I have them here. So I won't read them out in Tibetan, but where are they? So we've got the bardo of this life, we've got the bardo of meditation, we've got the bardo of dream states, we've got the bardo of dying to experience the clear light of reality. I think it was Lao Tzu or one of them said, like, we don't know how to live until we've understood death. So when we're doing the 4-week course, we do work with that bardo to be able to sort of come to that edge, to reflect back. It's very, very powerful. We have the bardo of the luminosity of true nature, which is kind of a little bit like what you just did, working just with these associations to start trying to allow the voice of your true nature to come forward, similar to that with the bardo of rebirth as well. So these are the 6 bardos, traditional bardo states. And what I do in the 4-week course is we work with them to write basically 49-word poems, and that's a whole process. And Gina at this point has written some fantastic bardo poems. And it's just really another way of being able to actually do all of that background work, because you can see, even just to come up with the six words. If I had said to you, write out 6 words that describes your life, do any of you think you would have written out the 6 words you wrote? Right, because you would have come at it from your head, you know. And so what we do with these practices, we use these techniques to sort of come from behind or come from below, and then just allow this voice to emerge. And that's what these sort of bardo techniques that I use do too. So we focus on these different Bardo states, and then we start to work with those from that sort of way of working behind the scenes, from the sort of the resonance and the unconscious, to allow the 49-word poem ultimately to be an expression of where you are in this life, meditation. The dream one is beautiful as well, the Bardo of dreaming, the Bardo of dying, the Bardo of our true nature, and the Bardo of rebirth. So we can't get them all done in 4. We usually do 4 of them, 1 a week we'll work on in the 4-week course. But they're beautiful ways of very, very poetically being able to get to very deep and inaccessible states that we can't get to from thinking. We can't get there from our heads. Does that make sense? So that's what the Bardo is. I just call them Bardo poems because I made them all 49 words long to reflect the 49 days in the Bardo. Beautiful thing that Mary Oliver wrote that I meant to read for you is, someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness, and it took me years to understand that this too was a gift. Isn't that beautiful? There's 2 sentences, but it's still beautiful. But it's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it's just the amount of story and expression that can come out of something this short is extraordinary, really, isn't it? And it's because it's coming out of resonance. It's not coming out of, let me just sit down and write an essay. You've got to experience the resonance first. And that's where the growth is. And then we express it. And that's the basis sort of this sort of soul writing work in essence. We've only got half an hour left. So you don't really have time to do a full-on Bardo poem. So what we could do is do a quick Bardo. Who's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. We've got 9 people. So let's do a very quick Bardo poem. So what I'm going to ask you all to do, we'll just do this because we don't really have enough time to really get into something really in depth, like let's go die now, or let's examine our clingingness, or I haven't got time to get into that because it's just very, very intense work and would take more than 20 minutes. So we'll do a nice, easy Bardo poem to finish up. But before we do that, has anyone any questions for me so far? Anything you're not sure about, anything you want clarity on or anything like that? No, you good? Fran and Victoria, you good? So let's do a shared experience Bardo poem, right? So I want you all, I need a pen and a piece of paper for this too. I want you all to just to sort of sit now in the silence, back to the power of the breath, back to the breath, back to that sort of calmness, that peace and tranquility, and that presence and connection with the spirit, which you've been sitting in here, just focusing on the breath and getting yourself steady and quiet. Simple act of breathing and being present in this form, in this world, at this moment in time. Now I want you to send out an intention to the power of the one, collective, from the collective power of this group. And ask for one word. That word will come quickly. Just one random word from the spirit, from the power of the spirit for you. And just jot that word down. All right. So what I want you to do, all of you, is I want you just to, I'm going to type them in here so you can all see. I want you just to take these 9 words and just add 40 to them. so that you come up with 49-word poem. So you can put them in little sentences if you want. Do you want me to show you one I wrote? Oh God, let me see if I can pull one up. Just to show you, okay, here's one I wrote. Hurled like a feather into a remote street, howling into the dead echo, raging in terror at the life not saved. Then, remembering the beauty in your gaze, hope there, not resignation, just layers of love bathing in your breath. You are the lucky one in that last exhalation. And that was called 49 Breaths. So what I did there was I did this in the Zen Center actually. I took 9 words that we shared within our group and put them in, added 40 more to them to come up with that poem, which actually is about my father's death. You know, so I'm going to give you 15 minutes. Is that enough time? Just to sit with the words. I'm going to type them in here. Just to sit with those words and allow them come together with thoughts and sentences and just sort of start to evolve into 49. Just don't count the 49 words. Get the inspiration, get the sentiment, get the feeling, get anything that the movement into what you, and then I'll tell you, now you've got 5 minutes left, go back now, start cutting it back into 49 words, right? So just write for 10 minutes, then I'll tell you when it's up. Just allow yourself to be moved by the words for about 10 minutes, and then I'll let you know when 10 minutes is up, and then you can start, structuring it. But don't worry about structuring it at the moment. I'll turn my microphone off. Okay, so I'm just taking a few minutes just to reorganize, structure what you write to get it paste into 49 words. Usually it's 7 lines, but it can just be free verse. It doesn't need to rhyme, doesn't really need to have rhythm. I don't expect you to come up with all of that in a few minutes, but see if you can break it into 7 lines of 49 words. If you can't, that's okay. So did you move your first sentence?
Yes.
Oh, good. So one thing that I didn't ask you to do on this is that normally what I do is, and actually, why don't you just do this real quick? Look at your first line and move it somewhere else. Often the first line works better at the last line. You good? You done? What do you think when you look at your poem? Does it read better with the first line at the end or somewhere else? I can guarantee you it does. Right? Do you want to know why? Because when we're faced with a blank page and you're sort of in this, I've got to get something written, what you start off with is in the ego space. You're in the head, let me get something down. And what happens is you rush to get down where you're going. This is what I want to say. You get down what you want to say first. And then the mind relaxes. Then you can start playing with it. And what happens is you've written your conclusion first because the ego needs to get that down. Ego came out of the analytical mind and move it to the end where it was supposed to be. Then all of the rest of it that was able to arise once you removed, just going to mute you, Gina, because there's a feedback. Then, once that anxiety is out of the way, then it starts to flow, right? So that one first sentence, nearly always, I would say 9 times out of 10, works best at the end. I don't think I've ever come across it working properly at the beginning, because what it does is once we move it to the end, it actually allows the process build towards that as the destination or the conclusion, and that's what it is, the terror of the blank page. Joyce Carol Oates said, I don't know quote exactly, I've got in front of me, we cannot write the first line until the last line is written. Cannot write the first line until the last line is written. So we have to leave it there, ladies. It's been a pleasure. Let me just, because you came tonight, we've got a little gift for you, which is there's the $25 off. If you use that code, if you want to book for the 4-week course, I think you'll really get an awful lot out of the 4-week course. And then the healing course that comes on for that, if you're interested, that's a separate course, but later. Very, very powerful course. But if you want to join me for the 4-week course, starts on September 21st. I think that's Wednesday, I think. Just use that code SW2022 when you're checking, when you're booking. That's the URL there. And we'll email this to you as well tonight or tomorrow morning. It's only good for 1 day, so it's only good till tomorrow. So if you want to join me over the 4 weeks, just go ahead and book that. Because it's writing, it's a very small class, because it gets just impossible with big classes for writing, because then you can't really share, and you spend the whole night sharing. And so it is a small class. There's not very many spaces. So if you want to come along to that, and we email you the coupon code and the URL as well tonight or tomorrow morning. And then if you want also, I've got bunches of recordings, meditations, the attunement practices I mentioned earlier. They're all free if you're a member of the community. And so it's free to join the community at the moment. And if you want to get those guided meditations, there's apps and healing, you can ask questions. I'm starting as soon as I get a submission into my PhD supervisor, which is very late. I'm going to start actually recording video answers of all loads and loads, the whole log of questions people are asking. So I decided I'll start doing video answers. So if you want, you can ask questions and then I answer them, and they go up on the website as well. There's apps and healing there. There's a whole bunch of reading resources, lots and lots of stuff there. There's recordings of old workshops as well. So if you want to join the community, like I said, it's free at the moment. Won't be forever, but it is at the moment. And so please do come along and join that as well. And that's really it, ladies, for this evening. So I will say thank you very much. You were all very brave and willing to step outside your comfort zone and do something new and different. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And please do take those little writing techniques. Hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks. But either way, take those little writing techniques with you and just try them out. Different places and different times.